Hi everyone. Um, Welcome to my pre-recorded version of week 3, which is mindful eating. I hope you guys enjoyed last week and that it helped to reignite your love for food and recipes and cooking. So today is very much a psychological and stress-based talk. So I'm going to share the slides with you now. We'll just start this slideshow. Mindful eating. Okay, so before we talk about food, just to be aware that all of these are interrelated. So you can think of these 3 aspects of our lives as a pyramid, and a pyramid is a very strong structure. So when all 3 of these things are in place, we have a very strong pyramid. If one of these is kind of weak, the whole structure collapses. So we have physical activity, stress management, and nutrition. So all of these are interrelated. Good nutrition can positively influence physical activity and stress levels. Physical activity lowers stress and improves weight management. High stress levels can result in poor nutrition, reduced physical activity. So it's worth looking at being mindful that we are focusing on all 3 of these aspects and not just nutrition or just physical activity. So what is mindful eating? So a good question to ask yourself or to look at is why we eat and how we eat is as important to building a healthy relationship with food as what we eat. So a lot of us just focus on the what. What am I putting into my body? That kind of dichotomy of good food and bad food. But why we eat, what is the reason behind why we're making these choices, and also what kind of habits and behaviors do we have around food. So getting to the why do we eat? So when we're eating mindfully, we eat because we're hungry. It's absolutely normal to eat when you are hungry. Another reason you might eat is for enjoyment, as we described in the beginning. Eating for enjoyment is totally normal and totally healthy, and eating for nourishment. So eating for nourishment in terms of certain conditions that you might have, or looking at something in terms of this is high in minerals, or this is high in slow releasing carbohydrates or protein, and looking at food from a nourishment and energy point of view. When we're eating more mindlessly on the why, it's cravings. So cravings usually stem a lot of the time from not obeying your hunger signals, skipping meals because you're stressed, etc. Eating for emotional reasons. The reason I call this mindlessly, I mean, you can mindfully say, I don't feel great, I'm going to eat something to make me feel better. But it's putting more mindfulness into other ways that we can process our emotions besides food. So food is sometimes a very reactive behavior when we're emotional, or for sabotage. So sabotage meaning, I'm so bad, I'm so terrible at this dieting game, I'm just going to eat more and sabotage my results. So very important to stop yourself before you eat and just go, why am I doing this? And is it for the right reasons? If not, can I shift my mindset towards the right reasons and therefore make a better choice? How do we eat? So mindfully, eating slowly. It's not easy for everyone to eat slowly. Sometimes we're really enjoying our food or we're in a rush, but eating slowly is important to be able to digest and also to taste and savor your food. Am I eating in a relaxed environment? So a lot of people eat while they're doing something else, eating while they're on a phone call, eating while they're stressed or while they're worrying about something else. So it's always good to eat in a contained environment where you're sitting and you're relaxed and focusing pretty much only on your food. Eating on a plate or a bowl. So this means putting your food onto a plate or putting it in a bowl, sitting and eating it. So instead of actually picking and eating in that kind of manner, using fresh ingredients. So how am I doing this? I'm doing this with fresh ingredients that I've picked from my garden, or I've bought at the grocer. I'm cutting it up. I'm, making things from scratch. Eating lovingly, so, eating like you love your body, doing it for the right reasons, and eating intuitively also. So intuitive kind of takes away mindfulness, because you're not putting your mind into it when you're eating intuitively. But we'll get a little bit into intuitive eating, but it is a great way to approach food. Eating mindlessly, on the other hand, could be eating rapidly. I just got to get this food in. Oh, this tastes so good. I just eat and swallow and not taste. Eating while stressed or doing other tasks. Picking at your food, going to the cupboard, grabbing something, eating in the car, those kind of things. Using convenience foods as opposed to cooking from scratch. Eating as a punishment or a sabotage. Going for a binge just because you're trying to punish yourself. And eating unconsciously rather than intuitively. So some people eat and don't even know they're eating. You can look back at your day and you didn't even realize that you were just sitting and picking for half your day, or not even realizing that you were eating. And then what do we eat? So this is the content. So mindfully would be eating high energy foods that are going to get us through our day, foods that are sources of nutrients, and foods that might offer some health benefits. Mindlessly might be more empty calorie foods, so not paying attention to what's in your food, low nutrients, and foods that might have adverse health effects. Okay, so always ask these questions before you eat, even if it's just a quick scan in your brain to kind of get you to a point of knowing why, what, and how before you do it. So this is really something you guys can practice. Take in the information on an intellectual level, and then start to practice it throughout your day and at different meals and snack times. So what we're going to do now is just a little almost meditation. So you guys are all going to grab a piece of fruit that you've gotten from your kitchen. And we're all going to sit together and eat our food very mindfully. Okay, so also using all your senses: touch, sight, smell, taste. You can even use your ears. There's a slight sound as you peel something, as you bite into it. So I want you to take your fruit. I mean, obviously you wouldn't necessarily eat it so slowly all the time. And start to just look at it. First of all, you could ask yourself, why am I eating this? Oh, because we're doing a little experiment, for one thing. Also, I'm eating this banana because I quite like bananas and find them tasty. I know they're high in potassium. I know they're good source of fiber, etc. Looking at all those kind of benefits. And what is pretty simple. I'm just eating a banana. But when you see if any negative thoughts come up in terms of why you might be eating something before you eat it. And just an experiment, just to sit and eat and chew our food and try and use all the senses as you do it. Okay, so you guys can all put you're all on your own anyway. We're not on camera, so you're gonna have to watch me eating it, but we can all do it together. So just feeling like the texture, how your smell and your taste are connected, any emotions that might come up when you're eating something. So I'll just give you guys a few more moments to complete your eating experiment. actually so much more enjoyable to really put that mindfulness in when you're eating something. Okay, we're just trying to bring that little bit of awareness in every time that you eat. You can also bring awareness into your food prep. It's the same thing, like I'm holding this food, looking at the color of it, smelling it, you know, what it feels like and sounds like to chop it. All that kind of stuff just puts that mindfulness in. So just a nice practice to do. Okay, some of the mindful eating challenges. So food preparation, which we've gotten into. You know, really putting mindfulness into choosing your ingredients. How am I going to chop them? How am I going to flavor them, etc. Eating more plants, because I think that is a huge thing. How stress and emotions affect what you're doing are all the challenges that are going to take place when we're trying to practice mindful eating. So just an example of a typical quick fix diet, which can stem from some kind of mindlessness in terms of going for, so what happens when we mindless versus mindful, in mindless eating, we might go more on our reactive behaviors. So as I wake up, I need coffee. I'm feeling down, I need a pick-me-up, I need chocolate, I need sugar. And as you know, these just perpetuate cravings for more of these things and makes the mindful eating a lot more difficult, especially when we start our day like this. You know, having a piece of chocolate after a meal doesn't tend to do that as much as relying on these things instead of like real food. So just to be aware of how much we use these so-called stimulants like caffeine and chocolates. It's got theobromine, sugar, refined carbohydrates to give us our energy instead of really turning to stuff that's a lot more sustainable. So because we're talking about the mind here, I wanted to just deviate a little bit from the eating onto the role that stress plays on our body. It's a little bit off, but it's one of the things we're not covering in these weeks. So I want to cover it in this segment, and we touch on it a little bit more in the meditation segment as well. So when we have stresses in our life, we will produce a hormone called cortisol. So we produce adrenaline, which gets us like ready for energy and fight or flight, and cortisol that keeps I mean, one of the things it does is it keeps the blood sugar high and maintains the stress response. So you've all heard of the drug cortisone, and we know that also makes us gain weight and has side effects. It's actually a very similar compound. And one of the things that cortisol does is it creates an immune response, so an inflammatory response that can cause all sorts of things down the line. So one of the things, decreased immune function, which can lead to things like ulcers and H. pylori, increased susceptibility to infections and things like that. Changes in the cardiovascular system. So when we're stressed, we get increased blood pressure, increased plaque, increased risk of heart attacks and things like that. Changes in our neurochemistry, very interestingly. So when we're stressed, we get a decrease in serotonin and a decrease in dopamine. Serotonin's our feel good, dopamine is our pleasure and reward neurotransmitter. And then also changes in glucose metabolism, because as I explained, you get this insulin resistance when we're very stressed to try to keep sugar in the blood so that you can use it for fight or flight. So this is also something you can become mindful of, like, how stressed am I and what kind of implications do I have? Like, do I have inflammatory conditions? Do I have heart disease, or do I have a predisposition to it? Has my mood changed at all? Am I gaining weight? Do I feel like I'm not balancing my blood sugar as much? So just to become aware and mindful of how stress is affecting your body and what are your stresses as well, because some of us don't really know. We just feel stressed, but we're not really sure, you know, was it that thing at work? Is it the traffic? Is it actually something from the past or a trauma? And that just helps us to be able to process our stress better. So also food affects our mood. So this is also something to become conscious of. Like, when I eat better, do I feel better? Important mood food is certain vitamins, especially vitamin C, and your B vitamins, especially B6, B12, and folate. So B vitamins are very involved in the stress response. So it's actually very difficult to get a B vitamin deficiency from food, from like not eating enough. It usually stems either from over exercising or stress. Amino acids. So amino acids are what actually make our neurotransmitters. So besides the gut, which is also like 50% of our serotonin and dopamine, we need certain amino acids. Minerals, especially zinc and iron, help with mood, and fats like omega-3 because they feed the brain. So this is quite an interesting one. We have all these different neurotransmitters. Glutamate is what makes us feel like energized. So turkey breast is mentioned quite a lot here just because it probably comes from an American source, but we don't get a lot of turkey here. But it is actually an amazing meat because its neurotransmitter capability is higher than chicken or meat or anything else, but any proteins basically, but especially turkey, pumpkin seed, soya beans, eggs, sesame, certain cheeses. GABA is our relaxing neurotransmitter. So GABA makes us feel relaxed. It's also mostly created in the gut by your probiotics, and then also your fermented foods. So there's not that many food sources, although L-glutamine, which is like an amino acid you can take, is a good precursor for it. Glutamine actually makes glutamate and GABA. They're kind of the opposite of each other. So it's a little bit, I'm still trying to work it out. What makes some people produce more excitatory glutamate and what makes some people produce more relaxing GABA. Serotonin, so some sources, bananas, walnuts, pineapples. So yeah, feeling slightly happier after that. And then tryptophan is a specific, so bananas, walnuts, and pineapples actually contain a bit of serotonin. And then tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. So turkey again, so you've heard that thing about like people falling asleep after Thanksgiving dinner. It's because of the turkey, and if you eat a lot of it, you get a surge in your serotonin. Turkey, eggs, soya beans, pumpkin seeds, your white beans, sesame seeds, mung beans, which are those little green ones, split peas, kidney beans, certain nuts, certain grains. And again, it's mostly your legumes and your protein sources. Tyrosine, which supports dopamine. Turkey again, eggs, soya beans, but any proteins really, but those will be three of the top ones. And then choline acetylcholine is what makes us think, like it's our cognition, our ability to absorb information, and also memory. Meat, eggs, grain-based products, turkey, soybean, chickpeas, lentils. You can also see again how these legumes come up so much. So really do encourage you to include more of those foods. So that's just a little interesting on the sideline, and it's something you can study as well in terms of neurotransmitters. There's some questionnaires as well where you can kind of get an idea based on how you process information, how you feel on a daily basis, which neurotransmitter might need more stimulation. I think I've got the questionnaire somewhere. I can send it to you guys if you want. Okay, so what is intuitive eating? So intuitive eating, I've got a questionnaire and I'm going to send you guys the questionnaire. It's like a Google Doc, and you can each fill it in for me, and I'll give you some feedback onto where your intuitive eating pitfalls may lie and where you need to focus on most. So there's four major components of it. The one has to do with giving yourself permission to eat freely. So a lot of people have been chronic dieters. They have a lot of fear around foods. They don't want to eat certain foods because they feel like they're bad. They feel like they need to skip meals because they've eaten too much at certain other times. So it's about becoming permissive on eating. But obviously, intuitive eating and following a meal plan do kind of come at odds with each other. So if you are somebody who is a chronic dieter or has emotional issues with food, intuitive eating is definitely for you. If you don't, it's, you know, it's absolutely fine and not disordered to be following certain food rules, but it's about seeing where you need to put more effort into. The other aspect is, do I eat for physical hunger rather than emotional hunger? So this is the whole emotional eating, stress eating, boredom, loneliness, etc., and how how much we use food as opposed to other methods of coping. Am I connected to my hunger and fullness signals? So am I obeying them, for example? So like when I'm hungry, do I eat? Or when I'm hungry, do I go, I'm going to get fatter, I shouldn't eat? You know, those kind of thinkings in your brain. And are you in tune with your fullness signals? Do you try not to feel full, or do you eat until you're too full? And just getting in tune with that. And then the other one is, am I overly preoccupied with eating foods with health benefits? So I consider myself a very intuitive eater. I don't think I have 1, 2, 3 problems. The fourth one, maybe that's where I need to work a little bit in terms of, you know, not only thinking of things in a health term, and, you know, just allowing myself to eat something just for the sake of eating it, because there's got to be a balance. So on the one side, yes, we want to make healthy choices, but you also don't want to end up in a situation where you are only eating healthy foods and you won't deviate from that. Okay, so those are where the intuitive eating patterns come in, and I'm going to give you guys a questionnaire, and then what I can do from that is tell you each where you need to work. Okay, so here's a daily mindful eating checklist. So am I eating mostly for energy and nourishment? Am I eating for enjoyment on a daily basis? Am I finding appropriate ways to process emotions and stress other than food related? Am I taking my unique health requirements into account? Am I feeding a healthy gut? Am I taking time to prepare my food? Am I taking time to taste and savor my food? Am I eating in a contained environment, a certain time and place, on a plate, etc.? Am I focusing on the food experience while eating? Am I chewing and tasting my food? And am I balancing what I need to eat with what I want to eat? Okay, so this is a little checklist you can kind of check in with every now and then and see that you are practicing most of those. Okay, some keys to success with mindful eating. Include your fun foods and foods you love. Be consistent. Learn to compensate. So compensate means, you know, something went a little bit wrong. There's always something you can do. That meal wasn't high in veggies. I can always have a salad later on. Set realistic goals for yourself, especially when you have, you know, things like weight loss goals and health goals. Nothing needs to happen overnight. Eat for both enjoyment and nourishment. Delay gratification. So if you're someone who eats a lot of chocolate or drinks a lot of coffee or wine, you can say, right, you know, I love these things. I don't want to cut them out, but I can have them less often and delay the gratification of having them. Another delayed gratification is where you don't focus on instant gratification of eating a food, but rather the delayed gratification of getting through your day and saying, wow, that was actually a great day and I feel good. Contain your eating, as I mentioned. Change your habits. So that's very important, that you're not just forcing something, that it's actually a habit change so that it can become more entrenched. Manage your emotions in a healthy way. Find what brings you joy in a day, because if you're focusing on what brings you joy and what makes you laugh and what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel comforted, gives you like a virtual hug, you are less likely to turn towards food for those same feelings. And practice self-care. So self-care can be anything from going to gym, doing your nails, buying yourself something, or even just, you know, taking a little bit of time for yourself, so that you are dealing, this helps us to deal with stress and manage stress in a more healthy way. Okay, so that is the end of week 3. what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you. So the task for this week is related to just doing the mindful eating questionnaire, the intuitive eating questionnaire. So I'm going to send you a link to that questionnaire, and you guys can all fill it in for me. It doesn't take too long. And then I will give you some feedback on that. And then if there's any questions or anything you guys want to discuss with me, you're welcome to send me a message and let me know how you're doing. Yeah, and I will see you in relative person next week. And thanks for letting me record this for this week. And yeah, I'll chat to you guys soon.